Hi guys, Dan here from Wellness Academy. Welcome to today's show. Really excited to bring you today's interview. Met today with a guy named David Mack. David Mack is the head coach at Wellness Academy, and I'm not going to say too much more. It's a fantastic hour spent talking to him. I really enjoyed it. Have a notepad ready and enjoy. David, welcome to the Wellness Academy podcast.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you very much for being here.
Good to be here.
I wanted to start off with you giving us an idea about where your passion for wellness has come from. So,
oh my goodness.
One simple question, which I think has quite a long answer. So I know that you're the head coach of the Wellness Academy, but I also know that you didn't just click your fingers and arrive at that point. And I remember, you and I met for the first time like a couple of months ago. And I wouldn't personally have gone, wow, this guy was commissioned in the Royal Air Force. And that was like, wow, not just a very impressive guy coming across, in 2019 in the brief times we've met, but also I'm sure many people can agree to be a commissioned officer. And there was a lot of story around that you felt led to where you are now. Yeah. I was already interested. I'm happy to be more interested. Let me know.
Yeah, I think it's more about people fulfilling their potential.
Okay.
So my passion is to try and help people live to their full potential, and I think everybody would feel that they would like to be as well as healthy as possible, and therefore fulfilling their potential and desires, whether it's at family, whether it's health, whether it's at work. And that is part of being well, is helping them to fulfill the potential. Now, if you explore where that came from, that's from deep within my background, really. I left school without many qualifications, I think, as you sort of alluded to. And I was the also-ran at school. I came in 11th in the cross-country team when the first 10 counted. So I was reserve in the football team. So at the... with the prize day, I never got a prize. So I came out of school just accepting the mediocrity, and that I was never going to be anything special, but I was neither going to be nothing. I was going to be okay.
Okay.
And I joined the Air Force. I wanted to see the world, get away from where I was brought up, from school. And somebody, once I joined, identified that I had more potential and brought me out of myself, shall we say. And that took me on a huge journey, because when I first joined up, a commissioned officer was like, oh, God, you wouldn't dare talk to them.
Yeah.
And 10 years later, I was there as senior officer. So it was a journey of helping me find myself, helping understand what I could offer, what I could give. I had to go off to university to get a degree, I had to get a commission. I then had to get promoted within the engineering branch that I was in, and then I was at senior officer. So actually there's another lesson there in when you have a vision and you realise it without setting a further vision, there's a certain, well, actually I thought this was going to be awesome, but it's just quite ordinary, and there's another level above it. So the wellness comes out of, passion for wellness comes out of really wanting people to realise their potential, not be stressed, not be above their capability. But I've seen so many people that I know that have accepted that mediocrity that I talked about.
Yeah.
And yet when you get into that workplace, you need to be the best that you can be. And I think lots of people hold themselves back, fall short of their potential. So it's I'm the mindset coach, as you know, and it's that mindset of really going for what it is, your dream, and not stopping short, not selling yourself short. So the wellness comes in more that side than a physical wellness or exercise wellness. It's around just being the best that you can be and being happy and comfortable with yourself in that place.
But as far as individuals go, let's say I'm listening to this or I'm watching this for the first time. I've started to clock on that the word wellness, along with the word mindfulness, along with the word mindset, has become a little bit more regular in my vocabulary. Do you know what I mean? I see apps on my iPhone now, and or my Android phone. I see the newspapers, and if I go to Waitrose do a magazine every month now that seems to be.
You know why that is, don't you?
I don't.
Your reticular activation system has been fired up.
Okay, cool. Let's say my reticular activation system is fired up, and
you know what that is, don't you?
Go on,
your RAS. It's a little muscle between your conscious and your subconscious that piques your interest in things and allows you to see things. So if I say to a group, as I do when I'm training, anybody see a yellow car on the way in today? Nobody will know.
Yeah. I
don't mention it again, and then people send me a text or an email saying, oh, I saw that yellow car on the way home. That's because I've piqued their reticular activation system for that subject of a yellow car. And this is why setting goals works.
Okay, yeah. Because
you're saying, I want. And when you say I want or I'm going to get, you're starting to look for things.
Okay.
One of the things that I say, because I'm often trying to encourage people to feel good about themselves and feel good about people. If you think, right, the next person who's going to walk through that door in your office, they're going to give me the answers to this week's lottery. I'm going to really enjoy when they come in and tell me that. And when they come in, you will smile. And you will be... I'm a huge believer in how much of our communication is non-verbal. 93% is non-verbal. And so we give away what we think without realising it through our micro-expressions on our body. So we have to prime ourselves to want to... we don't like everybody, but it's better to be thinking, right, I'm really going to enjoy my conversation with Dan. I'm looking forward to what I can learn by our chat, and then I'll enjoy that more than if I just came in thinking, oh, do I want to chat to Dan today? He might ask some awkward questions. So, you're setting yourself up there for having a more difficult time. So it's about being positive. And I know it's easy to say that, and I know some people find that really difficult, but it's the mindset to get into, and it's about looking for how you can do it. I don't know whether you've come across it might be something called Pygmalion, where you get what you expect. They did this psychology experiment with teachers. They took a class of really difficult, delinquent kids and told this teacher these were really clever kids and they were going to be the best. Another class of really clever kids, and they told the teacher, these are a bit disruptive. These kids are probably not going to do well in the exams. At the end of the year, the kids that were clever, but they were told the teacher they were not very clever, didn't do very well in the exams, and the ones who were not meant to do very well and disruptive, but they told the teacher they were clever, did really well in their exams.
I heard it called us. Hi guys, it's Dan from Wellness Academy. Welcome to today's show. A fantastic show in store for you today with Jess Uffindell. She is a nutritionist and a proponent of functional medicine. Some really, really great takeaways. I got a lot from today. Have a notepad ready. Enjoy. Jess, welcome to the Wellness Academy podcast. Thank you very much for being here with us. I wanted to start off with you giving us an idea of why you ended up being a nutritional therapist.
Sure. So it's a little bit of a long story. So basically, probably towards the sort of later years of school, so sort of my early and late teens, I started struggling a little bit with sort of mental health, just a little bit to begin with. And sort of by the time I'd reached the end of university, it had gotten a lot more severe. And I ended up getting diagnosed both with depression and attention deficit disorder, which was kind of, I guess, just a collection of symptoms that I had at that stage. I mean, there's lots of different sort of ideas that people have about these, particularly ADHD. Anyway, so I ended up being put on some quite strong medication, which at the time I kind of felt was sort of the answer to my problems. It certainly solved a lot of problems to begin with. Sort of fast forward a couple of years later, and I was anything but well. I'd lost a lot of weight. I'd lost interest in sports, food. I'd lost a lot of friends. So, whilst it had solved a lot of problems, it had caused me a lot more. So my rather sort of despairing parents were obviously trying to push me in a much healthier direction. And my dad actually ended up persuading me to do this fitness challenge. It was a 90-day challenge, sort of encompassing both a diet, a daily workout, and also education. So it was a really kind of, looking back now, it was quite basic education, but it was, all new to me about nutrition and health. And yeah, within about 3 weeks, I'd seen an absolutely huge change. I'd stopped taking my medication, or I'd very much made a decision like, right, this is going to be the way forward. So it was a real sort of 180. And it was basically the effect that this huge change in my lifestyle had that made me decide, right, this is something I'm much more than just slightly interested in. I'd like my career to be in this. I'd been working...
You're a firm believer like me, I think, now, that you can make a positive difference to your health, both physically and mentally, with a decent diet and exercise and lifestyle choices, right?
Yeah, so no, I did it very much alongside medical advice. Mm-hmm. So no, that I guess because of the nature of what my illness was, I was able to manage it. Well, and I now am able to manage things without medication.
Do you notice anything still? Nobody can train all the time. Like, we go on holiday, we get ill in normal ways, cold or whatever. We can pick up niggles, we can prioritise family or work or social activities sometimes. Hopefully we always come back to our fitness practice as such. But I'm guessing there are times where you've gone without in terms of training or the ideal diet. Do you ever notice things creep back in and you have to go, oh, okay, I've slacked off?
Yes, definitely. So certainly with any form of training and generally with my day-to-day diet, it is very much like I'm intrinsically motivated. Like I know I need to do certain things because it makes me feel well, and I'm just one of these people that needs to make probably more of an effort to feel good.
Yeah.
However, I think a key difference between, I look at it pre that sort of moment, 3 weeks into that fitness challenge where there was a real moment of clarity, was beforehand there was a sense of desperation and lack of control. Like I didn't know why I didn't feel well. I didn't feel that it was within my control. After that and ever since, I have felt I'm able to... I've got the reins in my hand, however loose they are. I can always rein them back in. And I think that's the key difference. Essentially, the functional medicine tree, it's a tree. And if you think about it, it's basically an analogy for a person. So at the bottom, you've got... so I'm going to have to...
Yeah, go for it. And what we'll do is we'll probably put this in the link at the end of the episode for anyone to download or look at online. It's a pretty generic thing, even though you'll probably find a million hits on Google for it. But pick it up, go for it. Yeah, definitely.
So at the bottom, you've got the roots of the tree. And going into those roots, you've got what we would look at as all of the sort of environmental, the inputs into your health. So we've got, going from the left, sleep and relaxation, exercise and movement, nutrition and hydration, stress and resilience, relationships, networks, trauma, microorganisms, so things like bacteria and viruses, and then environmental pollutants on the right. So essentially these are all going into the roots, in whatever way that they might be.
So our day-to-day life is like this.
And in nutrition, if we take something away, we always want to replace it. So if I'm taking away sort of your processed ready meals, your McDonald's, whatever, I'm going to want to replace it with fresh, unprocessed food. And the majority of that is going to want to be vegetables.
Okay.
So I guess that would probably be my second takeaway, would be eat more vegetables.
Okay.
Simple as that. And it really is as simple as that. It doesn't matter if they're organic. It doesn't matter if they're local. Great if they are, but it really doesn't matter. Essentially, if you eat more vegetables, you're going to be getting so many more health. All of our energy and nutrients that create health come from our food, more or less, which obviously is absorbed and digested through the gut. So it's a pretty logical place to start in most cases.
But I think it's something probably a lot of people don't know, though, isn't it? Like the idea of how your gut health can connect to so much.
I mean, if I think back to me, you know, going and seeking out this medication for my ADHD and thinking it was the answer to all of my problems, I hadn't got the faintest idea. I think people are much more aware now. This is, you know, well over 10 years ago. But yeah, it's not something we really learn about in schools or anything like that. I think it's something that people in general have to go through difficulty and hardship with their own health. In general, that's the pattern I've seen with people who work in this field, is that they've kind of had to discover it on their own.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey guys, it's Dan, host of the Wellness Academy podcast. Welcome to today's episode. Super exciting guest for you guys today. We've interviewed John Dudley, a stoic mindfulness coach, a long-time teacher, really wide-ranging topics from powerlifting to Tai Chi. I really enjoyed talking to John, and I really hope that you guys are going to enjoy listening to him and I go through so much for you to take away at home. Enjoy. John Dudley, welcome to the Wellness Academy podcast. Thanks very much for joining us.
Okay, pleased to be here.
Fantastic. So, if nothing else, what I wanted to do, you and I have been chatting off and on since we organised you being on here with us.
Yes.
Just give us a brief, history where you think that in terms of like wellness, you started out. So you and I discussed, for example, you were teaching, you were training in powerlifting, and you came to a realisation in terms of wellness that you probably wouldn't be able to carry on, or you felt you wouldn't be able to carry on doing that.
Yes, ad infinitum. No.
And you became aware of wellness. Like, you know, give us a bit of a bio, how you felt you got to that point, and so on.
Well, there's two strands really to that, and it is that there's a personal strand of my development, which you've mentioned. You know, I started out. I'm a sporting type of person. I'm no great talent, but I've always done a lot of sport. And passing on in my teaching career, I coached sports. I became a basketball coach and so on and so forth. I'd always done strength work from school. In fact, I must have gone to a really unusual school because that's where I started weight training.
Okay.
And that must have been, the first sessions must have been round about when I was 14, in round about 1955 in the winter then. And it was extremely beneficial. And from being nowhere at all, 2 years running then, I won the City Sports 100 yards, and I went on from there doing those kind of things. And I came through a system whereby I was always taught, when I was being taught, to pay attention to what you were doing.
Yeah.
So you pay it, if you're doing a lift, if you're doing a back squat, you can't think to yourself, have we paid the rent this week? No. You can't do that because you've got a weight on your shoulders. And most of the things you do, if you're practicing martial arts, you're paying attention to that.
I've picked up from you so far that you clearly like to learn.
Yeah, absolutely.
And haven't stopped doing so, like regardless of age. Which is awesome. Like, I'm right there with you. I wrote down you had a distance learning course.
Yeah.
I think was it Pathways in Philosophy?
Yes, that's right.
And then you did further study to become an affiliate.
No, not an associate.
An associate, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So we kind of got on to the like another topic of things that I know that it's something that I'm interested in. I think you'll agree, being a kind of renaissance of the Stoic movement, hasn't there?
Yes.
Which I know we talked about was something else that you've gotten onto as you've progressed. And I thought, if nothing else, for my own benefit, would be cool and beneficial for you to kind of... There'll be people at home, I think, and I know there will be, because every time I've ever heard one of the newer Stoics So there's a guy, Ryan Holiday. I don't know if you've heard of Ryan Holiday. There's a book called The Daily Stoic. The idea that people think Stoic is one thing,
yes,
but it's actually a fantastic kind of manual for living if you can take on board some of those principles. Do you want to try and take me, and therefore anybody listening or watching, through maybe some of your favourite Stoic principles that we can apply at home, at work, in sport, or wherever? Which ones you benefit from?
The Stoic principles are really quite simple. Just a thought about Stoicism. Stoicism comes from Zeno, a Greek philosopher in about, where was he? The 3rd, 4th century. And Zeno, there were two schools of philosophy that took over from the major Greek philosophers, Socrates, Plato, and anyway, that school came down, and it split into two ways. And one way were the Epicureans, and another way were the Stoics. I think it's a simplification, but that's it. And what it is about them is, funnily enough, Plato is a dualist. Is a dualism view of people and the person and life, indeed. But these are what are called monist, or single entity things. The Epicureans and the Stoics. But the basic principles of Stoicism, although I don't think the philosophy necessarily stands up as philosophy, I think where Stoicism comes in, you could call it wisdom writing.
Okay.
It's wisdom. It's practical, everyday stuff. For example, one Stoic philosopher in Roman times now, coming up to date, you've got Marcus Aurelius, you've got Epictetus, and of course, you've got other writers who were basically Stoics, the Seneca and even Cicero as well. Yeah. They're Stoical people. And these are, approximately 2,000 years ago. Let's take Epictetus, 1st century into the 2nd century. Here's a good principle. Basically, he wrote one thing that's saying, well, I'm very careful who I go around telling these things about taking no notice of the things you can't control and paying attention to the things you can control, like what you're going to eat next and so on and so forth and where you go. And that's a very important principle. But he said, when I go around telling people about this, I find that I get thrown out of everywhere. I get beaten up because I'm telling them plain common sense and they don't want to hear it. He says, it's very dangerous being a philosopher in this time.
Okay.
And Epictetus was a guy who was, he was lame, he was a slave, but he was made a free man by the emperor of the time. I'm just trying to think who it was, I can't remember. But his writing is little bits that have come down, little bits of fragments. And the business of staying in the moment at all times, if you can, and being aware of what's going on and turning your attention to what you can do and things that you can do.
Hi guys, Dan here from Wellness Academy. Welcome to today's show. Fantastic guest for you today. Really interesting conversation with Kevin Dollin. Kevin is a mental health and physical wellbeing expert, and we go through lots of the current buzzwords today: how to deal with anxiety, and most importantly, how to protect yourself in here. As always, grab a notepad and enjoy. Kevin Dollin, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be sat down with you. I wanted to take a moment as we've got started just for you to give us an idea about how you've gotten to where you are in terms of the Wellness Academy and wellness. A bit of a bio, really. We've chatted back and forth, and you've got elements of a fascinating story to get you to where you are. So give us just maybe some cliff notes about your journey to a Wellness Academy coach.
Okay, well, I'm in my 62nd year, so it's been a long journey. And started many moons ago, but I started with being personal training a long time ago, and obviously being aware of the fact that the mind, funnily enough, is connected to the body. So I came from quite a upset childhood. My dad committed suicide, my granddad committed suicide on my mum's side, so I was always aware of mental illness. I suffered myself quite a bit as a younger kid. And so a lot of the times I thought, when I'm feeling bad, there's no such thing as a selfless act. So yes, I now help lots of people. I'm very happy to say I've turned quite a few people around that were self-harming, that were threatening with suicide, and are now, as far as I'm still aware, I do keep in touch with them, they're fine and they're living happy lives. But I'm also happy the fact that I've turned my own life around, because I could easily have gone down the same route, very easily. It's easy to turn around and say, I can't cope with this anymore and I'm not going to bother. And so it was my idea was to change my life, and I went to see a few people, the same as I did with training. I think, yeah, you know a bit, but that's not what I wanted, and yeah, I get that, but that's not what I asked, and yeah, I understand what you're saying, but again, it's not what I really was trying to achieve. So the best way to learn how to become fit and healthy was to become my own personal trainer, so I did. And the best way to learn how to cope with my own mind was to learn how to help other people.
What's my takeaway if I'm sat at home listening to this? How do I mean, is there anything I can do when I'm sat at home listening? What's the simple things to do? How do you help me with that, even though I can't sit with you wherever it is that I would sit with you for a session?
Okay, so let's just think of something that is what you're anxious about.
Okay.
So do you want to give me one, or just pick something?
Well, let's say stereotypically, I think a good one, pick something like work related. As you say, I'm envisioning some stressful scenario that I don't know is going to happen, but in my mind I'm making it real.
Okay, and how is that what's the emotion that you would attach to that?
Fear.
Fear. So you've now got a fear. Is that a genuine fear?
Well, I mean, it feels like one, doesn't it? But it depends on your definition of a genuine fear, I guess.
So what is the fear that's going to happen?
Are you after a specific, or are we just
chuck anything at me?
So let's say I'm afraid of loss of financial income.
Okay. So is it true that because of whatever your boss has said, you're actually going to get sacked?
More than likely, it's not. No.
So it's not true.
No.
And is it true that chances are you'll still have your job tomorrow morning?
Yes.
So we then go down quite a long list of, is it true? No. Is it true? No. We could do this all night long, but obviously there's a limited time.
Yeah.
But the basic is, I get you to explain where you're going with this.
Okay.
And hang on a minute, is that really true? And is that actually true?
Okay.
Until we basically will then convince you that actually what I'm saying is rubbish here, isn't it? I'm not, as with the people, my wife won't leave me if I'm bitten, and the boss won't sack me, and okay.
So it's about being willing to dig deeper than just that
around
first
you all the time.
Do you meditate every day?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you and there's lots of different types, I understand. So you can pay attention to your breath, you can pay attention to your body, you can try and allow the outside thoughts to come in and understand that they pass. Like, do you follow a particular type of meditation? Do you just kind of do your own thing based on what you've learned? Like, what's your meditation look like?
I tend to, I don't take any of the if you try and do one particular meditation and then you move on to another one, well, you're never going to finish the first one. And if I don't care how old you get to, you will not finish it. So I just like to sit down quietly and just do absolutely nothing, just try and completely empty my mind of all thoughts, and just let the time be. It's my time, and it's my coming round time, and I make sure that I get up in the morning early enough to have that built into it. Okay. And if I've got to get up early to go somewhere, then you get up a little bit early, don't you? And you can make the time up. What's wrong with having if you've got take a nap somewhere in the day, just take a little bit of time out for it. But it's important that you take time out for yourself, because people don't. Yeah. You live in your head, and only let the people. You've got the right to upset yourself. You've got the right to think bad things. You've also got the right not to think those things.
Kev, it's been fantastic.
It's been lovely
talking to you. Fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This is Dan Ball from Wellness Academy. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you enjoyed this podcast. Please subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, or wherever you're listening right now. You'll find a link on the episode notes. Just tap or swipe over the cover art. You'll also see some offers from our sponsor, and we hope you'll support our show by supporting them. If you like what you'd heard, we'd love it if you could give us a 5-star rating and tell your friends how to subscribe. It really does help the show. Another way to support us is to answer a short survey at yourwellnessacademy.co.uk/survey and tell us what wellness topics you'd like to hear about. I'm your host, Dan Ball. Our producer is Scott Towns, created by our executive producer, Ben Heathcote, for Wellness Academy.